If you guys do not know who Mary Maloney is, because we've been living under a rock, Mary Maloney is by far one of the most influential people in my life and in my career. I am unbelievably grateful to call her a mentor. I'm super, it was by total accident, but I won the lottery by ending up being partnered with her at EXP. And she has become just truly one of my favorite people in the world and a very good friend. She is an absolute wealth of knowledge on a billion topics. Marketing and farming are definitely both those topics that she absolutely excels at. So she is just a huge wealth of knowledge for people in this group. So I'm super happy to have everybody on. And if you haven't had the opportunity to hear her speak, you are all in for a huge treat.
My goodness, what an introduction. Thank you so much, Colton. Colton is just a treasure, and I am so fortunate that he has come into my organization, and we've gotten to know each other by spending time together at masterminds. And if y'all don't know, Colton is an excellent dancer.
Only with a lot of tequila and only next one.
He is an excellent dancer, and I've just loved watching his growth and getting to know him as a friend and a father and just all of the things. And you know, I think that's one of the coolest things is how in this industry we all have our superpower, right? Colton is amazing at team building and online lead conversion. And, you know, really that is such his superpower and skill set. And, you know, I've been in this industry for now 18 years and, you know, bring a different skill set. And so I love that Colton is reaching out to all of, you know, these different people and bringing them. Really what I want to talk to you guys about today, you know, through these masterminds that we've been doing, just really talking about the industry and where we're going and the market. And I'm so excited that Colton reached out to me to talk to you guys about geographic farming, because a lot of people do their business by addition. And when you add something like geographic farming, you start doing your business by multiplication. So you can either add people into your ecosystem one at a time through building Sphere and that sort of thing, or you can add people in through multiplication. And so I'm really excited to talk to you about it today. If everybody could just do me a favor and drop into the chat, do you currently have some sort of farm, whether that be geographical, demographical, categorical? Do you have some sort of farm? Hey, friend, look at that first up. Yes, you do.
All thanks to you.
I love it. I love it. I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Is really digging deep into that farm and how we've been able to build our business in going deeper, not necessarily wider. And also some of the mistakes that I've made in building a geographic farm, because if I can save you from those, I would love to do that too. And so, Colton, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this. Tell me how you would like to guide the conversation, because I've got so many slides, but I really want to guide the conversation where folks would love, you know, love to see us take the conversation and what they'd like to get out of it today.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one, like I've heard you talk about the numbers and the data behind selecting a farm and the M1, why that's so important. I mean, there's so many different areas for us to go into it. I think from conceptual to the actual implementation to deciding how much of a size to bite off. And then most important, for most people who either haven't done it or have done it within the last 6 months, what we constantly see is people will dramatically overestimate what that farm is going to produce for them within the first year and dramatically underestimate the compounding effect of what happens when you keep in there and you stay consistent. And that because we just see everybody quit before they actually get to see the real value and the return on investment for their marketing spend. So I'm from how you select and the data that you look at, I think that'd be a great place to start.
So when I actually left the Navy, I went and was a personal assistant. If anyone, give me some thumbs up if you know the movie Devil Wears Prada. Okay. I was Anne Hathaway. I worked for a lady that her family ran manufacturing in Hong Kong for Anne Klein, Jeffrey Bean, Nordstrom Classique. And I really learned a lot, but she burnt me out in a year. And so I went on my GI Bill and I actually got a business development job. And through that experience, I really cut my marketing chops because I was fortunate to work with Kellogg's, Nickelodeon, Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield. And there are just certain elements about branding and marketing that I think a lot of realtors miss because they don't teach us how to be marketers. And you guys really are marketing and media companies that just happen to sell houses. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with anyone?
Yep.
And that's what they don't teach us. And so I think that's why a lot of realtors struggle with, you know, what are the basics of marketing? What's the difference between marketing and branding? And that is why our industry has sort of gotten into a rhythm of just copying what other realtors are doing, thinking that that's what works. This realtor, they're just sold looks like this, so I'm going to do that. Instead of finding your authentic voice in who you are as a realtor, who you are as a brand, because what you are doing is you are really marketing who you are from a core value standpoint, from a brand standpoint, because, you know, when you think I need to blow my nose, you say, I'm going to go get a Kleenex, right? You don't say, I'm going to go get a tissue. So what you want to do in your marketplace, in your farm, is you really want to create that type of brand recall so that when, you know, someone thinks I have a problem and I need a realtor to solve it, who is the brand that they recall? Okay. Nothing that you're going to say in your marketing, on a postcard, because you sponsored someone's Little League team, is going to make someone want to sell their house or want to buy a home. Okay. And I think that's a big misconception and a big myth about our industry. There's nothing that we say that creates the life event that makes someone need to sell their home or want to buy a home. There is a life event that happens. I talk a lot about the 5 big Ds, right? Death, debt, divorce, deployment. Now we have disease and displacement. And so a life event occurs in a family's life, and then they have a need for a realtor. And you want to be that realtor that they recall. Okay. Now, not to say that you're not selling yourself along the way. You are marketing, branding, and selling yourself as the local market expert so that when they have that need. So I would challenge you guys, do you plan on being in this business in 5 years? Do you plan to be in this business 10 or 15 years from now?
Yep.
Because hell yeah, because marketing and branding are about building future business so that when a consumer has that need, they recall you. So yes, we put call to actions on our marketing, don't get me wrong, but there is a difference between a call to action and branding and marketing. Now, Colton touched on this, and this is fascinating to me because this is from the behavioral sciences study, that this first line here where it says current state kind of in the middle. So a lot of realtors, you know, they sell a house and they put out a just sold card, maybe put out a second card, or they start a farm. How many times I get called, Mary, I've been farming this community for 6 months and I haven't gotten one call. Because we as humans naturally want this orange dotted line of getting to the pinnacle of the desired state. Let's think about it as, you know, we're in January. A lot of people have made New Year's resolutions to go to the gym, right? So we go to the gym and we look in the mirror, we work out, we come home, we look in the mirror, nothing happened. We might go back the second day, we do a little workout, we come home, we look in the mirror, nothing happened. And we expect immediate results to get to that desired state that we want. And that's where the cliff of, oh my God, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot comes into play. Now, some people think that means where's Tom Ferry? And it doesn't.
Yeah.
So we get to that state, and that's where we have to decide, are we going to stay consistent or are we going to quit? Now, how many of you think Colton stayed consistent going to the gym and didn't quit? Right? Look at those guns. That man did not quit. Even though he did not get immediately to the desired state he wanted, he stayed with it. And then there comes a period of disruption. So when you stick with it, you've got to be committed to your budget for geographic farming until you can get through the trough and that period of disruption in the market to get to your desired state of success. Okay.
Mary, on this little part here, and I love this because it applies not only to geographic farming, but to literally every lead source, whether it's through open house.
Every lead source. Absolutely.
They call it uninformed optimism. And it's like when you get excited and we're ready to go and we're ready to get things going. And then you can see that straight line starts to do a drop, and that becomes the informed pessimism. And
Yes.
it's like, oh shit, this is harder than I thought. I'm not getting the results that I thought I would. This is costing me a lot more money than what I expected. And then you go into this valley of despair. And it's
Yes.
that little part right here,
Yeah.
this line where everybody I have seen
Yes.
give up on their farms without knowing that had they just stuck it out for another 3 or another 5 or another 6 months, then
Yes.
it becomes the informed optimism. You get that phone call, you finally get somebody who wants to meet with you. And then when you finally get to the other side of it, it's that informed, I already said that, the success fulfillment of it. And to where now you know it works, now you know the expectations, you know the ROI.
Right.
It's so important to focus on this little J curve here and getting past that valley.
Yeah, whether it be Zillow leads or, you know, it doesn't matter. Maybe you do, you know, an open house every single day for a month and you don't pick up a buyer, but then that one buyer walks in and buys, you know, a $3 million house or whatever it is in your market. So this is so important to get your mindset around all different lead pillars in your business of real estate and, you know, business in general, because look at companies that have still not turned a profit after 5, 6, 7 years, but investors continue to pour into them.
Yep.
Right? Because they are going through that period of disruption. So there is this J curve in all businesses, not just ours.
Yeah.
Okay. Different kinds of farms, really quickly. You don't just have to do a geographical farm. I chose to do a geographical farm for different reasons. You can also do a demographical farm. Maybe you are great with first-time home buyers. Maybe you are great with last time home sellers. So you can do demographical and categorical farms as well. So maybe you do land and ranches. Maybe you only sell the sand. Maybe you only sell beachfront homes. So think about farms in a different way. We not only have a geographical farm, but we also have a combination of a demographical categorical farm in the military. So that is a completely different farm that we farm homeowners that have a VA loan that could potentially be, because we're in a military market here in San Diego, Camp Pendleton. How to start a geographical farm. There are several ways to decide on a farm. And maybe you haven't had success in the farm that you chose, and you can apply these parameters to see maybe you picked the wrong farm. You can map your current database of past clients and leave the little pins, right? And maybe that will show you that you have a cluster of clients that maybe you weren't aware of. And that's doing the sphere map as well. Mapping your sphere, you might have some clusters. And then also, obviously, the prime way is to look at the different EDDM routes, because utilizing EDDM, every door direct mail through the post office, is the cheapest way to deliver your postcards. Here in San Diego, it costs us about 18 cents a house. But you can look up those different EDDM routes to see what in your market matches where you are wanting to farm. So in looking at the TAM, or the total addressable market, you'll hear a lot of marketers talk about the TAM. So you want to look at the total number of sales per year that is happening in that farm. What is the current turnover rate? Typically I like to see an 8 to 10% turnover rate. A lot of people will take on a farm maybe at a 6% turnover rate. And the average price point, and what is the GCI potential in that farm? I'm looking at a new farm right now in Palm Springs, which is outside my market. And this is exactly what I went through. The total number of homes is 1,200. And the average number of sales per year is anywhere between 80 to 110. Depending on the year. So that is a hefty turnover rate. The average price point is roughly 300,000. It's gone up a little bit during COVID. So even if you call it 400,000, they are still getting 3%. So we're looking at the GCI potential there at 3% listings. And is there a dominant agent? Yes, there is 2 dominant agents that work that market. However, they use iPhone photos and flyers that are printed off of Microsoft Word, and they just do everything. These ladies are like in their 70s. So not only am I looking at, can I go in there and take over that market, but that is a potential buyout, merger and acquisition, and a phase out conversation that I could potentially have with those ladies as well. So that's something else to think about when you are looking at these geographical farms. Is that dominant agent? Sure, they've had a couple of years of a really good market, but now we're moving into a market that isn't going to be so easy. It's not going to be easy money. Do they really want to work that hard anymore? Are they open to potentially doing a merger with you or getting a phase out from you? And you can spend the next 3 years co-branding your marketing with them and phasing you in and phasing them out. So that's a whole nother conversation that we can go down. But going through this exercise is a great way to identify those. So the elements of a geographic farm are very broad, and you cannot do only one thing. You cannot just direct mail and be successful in a farm. And that is a very big myth and misconception in our industry. You cannot just mail. You have to be everywhere. You have to be the biggest name that they see. So whether that be mega open houses, you are doing social media advertising, community Facebook groups, all the things that make your name synonymous with that community. I go to broker caravans and, it's my turn to pitch my listing. And everyone in the audience goes, oh, here comes Santa Leo Hills, right? Because my name is so synonymous with that community. So you want to be everywhere. You want other agents texting and calling you, asking you, do you have anything coming up in that market? That is when you know you are reaching market saturation, when you start getting those phone calls from the other agents because they know what you're doing in that market. So direct mail being the biggest kind of avenue, if you will, or medium that a lot of realtors do. Not to say that these other ones don't work. We just got a listing and sold a home from someone walking into a mega open house, and it wasn't that house that they ended up buying. Mega open houses right now, if you are not doing mega open houses, which I'm sure Colton has already done a whole Zoom on mega open houses, and if he hasn't, I know he will. Mega open houses right now for our team is the biggest opportunity to get belly to belly with a buyer or a seller, because every seller is stopping by to ask what's happening in the market. What's happening with this house? What's this house price at compared to mine? Because they're all worried about a deceleration that's happening in the market, right, Colton?
Yep.
And so every seller is coming into our open houses. What is the point of all these other things that we do? Direct mail, social media, sponsorships, events. What are all these other things that we do? What are we trying to accomplish?
Great conversations.
We're trying to get the appointment, right? So we can have those great conversations and get belly to belly with people. So at the open house, you're cutting out all the other things by going directly and getting belly to belly with people. Mega open houses is the biggest opportunity because everyone is curious. Everyone wants to know what's happening in the market. And it is the biggest opportunity to also talk to sellers in your market right now.
And I think it'd be good to pause real quick on this, just because it's one thing that people really dramatically underestimate the value that can come from these when you do it incorrectly. Yeah. And we've seen people like Mary Maloney doing an open house versus a third-year agent, second-year agent, first-year agent. I promise you it was wildly different than Mary Maloney's. And you'll see it. They put up 4 signs instead of putting up 50. And you'll see that they people, when the mega open house is going a week in advance and inviting all the neighbors and knocking all the doors and inviting them to the open house, how you collect and gather that data. It's we have people trying to do online leads because it's easy, but it's look, online leads on average in an industry, PPC, obviously it fluctuates, but the average online lead, you're going to get 1 out of every 100 for online. And then of course, if it's a higher, if it's Zillow or something like that, you'll get maybe 5 out of 100. It's the conversion for open houses as a national average is 1 out of 15. And the problem that people have is we just don't collect the data, and we don't understand, and we don't have the realistic expectations of somebody who enters into an open house and what their timelines to transact are. They've done the data on this, and less than 10% of people who enter your open house intend to transact within the first 6 months. Less than 10%. So what does that mean? It means we have to fill our database the same way that we do online leads. We have to go through the incubation period. And that incubation period is no different with online leads. It's no different with cold calling. It's no different with the results that you get from geographic farming. There's an incubation period that we have to understand as part of this process for these leads to mature and turn into a transaction. And it's so you see people come in and it's hi, how are you? Go ahead and take a look around. And if you have any questions, let me know. And then you stop them at the open house and you're like, Mary, what'd you think of the house? Oh, it's great. We're just kind of looking around, and yeah, here's my card, and we'll go ahead and follow up with us. And then you never hear from them again. And it's like, we handled this process so wrong. And there's a way to collect the data each and every time. And if you guys want to go into that, we can. I love Dan Beer's approach on this, Mary. We've implemented it. It's a game changer. But it's like collecting the information, making sure it goes into your CRM, and then making sure that you have a follow-up cadence that's appropriate for the timelines for these people to transact.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Rules for direct mail: consistency, frequency, and do you actually have a compelling message? A lot of times I see marketers or real estate agents that talk at the consumer, and the compelling message really needs to be about, are you educating or giving them something of value? And are you helping them solve a problem? Money flows when problems are solved. Money flows to the solution of the problem that they have. And a lot of times people have problems that they don't even know that they have. We talk to people, about selling their home, but what is the language and the messaging that we're using when we're marketing to them ahead of when they have the problem? Because if you're talking about the problems that your clients had, and I'll show you some testimonials, if you're talking about problems and how you solved them, when that problem occurs for that consumer, they're going to think of you. And money flows when problems are solved. When you were talking about marketing, I really want you guys to think about campaigns. Now, this is like ad agency stuff, right? Honda just doesn't throw up an ad on television. They have created a campaign that typically lasts a year. These are some of the campaigns that we have run in our business. Smart Move Good People was when we made the move to EXP. It's also a smart move when a consumer works with us and we're also good people. So that was a campaign we ran. I'll show you some examples of that. So if you start with thinking about the campaign that you want to run, then the rest becomes easy. And then you'll see when you start layering your approach, that's when it all starts to come together and flow. So this is an example of how we did our Smart Move Good People. So once you have your campaign, then you need to think about your funnel and how you're creating your funnel. Top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. We get them in the top of the funnel into the ecosystem by something that made them take an action. And this is where call to action is so important in your marketing. What do you want the consumer to do? And what do you want them to do when they get there? That gets them into the top of the funnel. Then in the middle of the funnel, have you said something, created a subject line, delivered a piece of value that now moves them into curiosity? They're in the education curiosity phase. Until then, you move them to bottom of the funnel and they're ready to actually take an action. So think about your funnel, and you guys grab screenshots of any of this. I can send these slides to Colton, but if you want to rip off and duplicate, R&D it, baby, it's all good. And so this is some examples of some funnels, just to get you guys to think and start getting the brains working there on creating your own funnels. Download our 50 top tips for selling your home. That is a great one right now because we're coming out of the holiday season. We're getting ready for that spring and summer market. If you're running Instagram stories and talking about a story and leading people somewhere, you always, when you're just talking at the consumer, that's really just push marketing, but you have to push them and then pull them back into your ecosystem. So you always want to take them somewhere. So think about how you're going to utilize landing pages. And I know I'm flipping through these really fast, but I know we have a limited time together. This is like a 4-hour course and I have like 45 minutes. So these are some examples. You guys are welcome to screenshot these. This is a downloadable deliverable that we have that we use to gather people's email addresses. But here's really, if you take away one thing today, this would be my secret sauce that I want you guys to screenshot. We tend to market in the personality that we are. So if you guys haven't figured out, I'm an expressive. You may be an analytical. You could be a driver, or maybe you're an amiable. And we tend to talk and create our marketing pieces in the personality that we are. And really, you have to be creating your marketing pieces that hit every single personality. So the analyticals, or give me a thumbs up or a hand wave or something. Have you ever gone into a listing presentation and you walked out and said, I just could not get into rapport with that person? I struggled getting in rapport with analyticals because I'm an expressive. That is a skill that I had to learn in becoming successful in this business, because analyticals want to look at the numbers. I wanted to look at the pretty pictures and how we were going to market their home. I wasn't speaking to them in how they wanted to receive information and what was important to them. And that tends to happen in our direct mail as well. So this is an example of our monthly marketing piece that we put out. So here you can see great data for all of the analyticals that are in our farm. I utilize Keeping Current Matters a lot for this because this is not my wheelhouse. Again, this is our monthly marketing piece that we put out. So you'll see here we have the data that the analyticals love. And then, of course, moving into the pictures of the beautiful homes, pictures of the people. This is what the expressives, I would just turn, it's the hardest thing for me to write. So I utilize Keeping Current Matters for a lot of the data. I put my own spin on the data because people want to know, what is that macro view? What does that mean in our micro market? And what does the data mean to them? As a buyer or a seller, what do these pretty graphs and charts mean to them? Right? So this was a piece, obviously we were still in COVID at this time. And so we just kind of put our own spin on that.
What's the size of this? Because it looks like you have a large piece.
This is a full size 8.5 by 11, and it's typically 8 to 12 pages.
One thing that I love about, like, there's somebody here in Orange County called the Katnick brothers, and when I'm telling you this, it is a total compliment. You have to pry this damn thing out of the mailbox because it is so damn big. It is this big, it's this wide, it's the biggest piece that you can legally mail. And every single month, that big monstrosity of a marketing piece shows up. You cannot miss it. But then I know them when I first moved here to California 7-8 years ago. I knew them immediately because I kept remembering this one piece. Every other agent sent me that standard size that immediately just made its way into the trash, like the rest of the junk mail that I received. These pieces, they can't be missed.
Yeah, size does matter. Don't skimp in your budget. If you set your budget for the year and maybe you have to decrease the number of homes that you're mailing to, but whatever you have set that budget that you are committed to spending, no matter what, go for the larger size, downgrade how many houses you're mailing to, because more houses isn't always better. And that was a mistake I made. I'm so glad you brought that up, Colton. We expanded our farm from 6,000 and took on a neighboring farm and jumped to 10,000 because at the time, my numbers told me that we were in a diminishing return in our market. I jumped out and that was a big mistake. And so, just keeping it small really does help to make sure that you are being effective in your farm. This is an example of combining your campaigns. So these are how we do our client testimonials. We don't just say, oh, Mary and Hometown Realty are great agents. Someone on my staff actually calls the client and interviews them, and then we write these testimonials. And this was part of our We Are campaign, but this is how we do all of our testimonials, because if you read the book, Building a Story Brand, which I read every January. I'm listening to it right now on this trip, just to recenter myself around telling the story. And that is an amazing book to do that. So if you just screenshot these and read through these, you'll see that we are setting our client up. We're talking about the problem and then how we came in and helped them solve their problem. We were the guide that came alongside of them. And so the amiables love this part of our marketing because they want to know who was the family, what was the problem, how did you solve it? They're the ones that love movies, right? And so this is a truly effective way to do your client testimonials.
Mary, it's funny you bring this up because if any of my team's on here, we talked about this literally today. It's like what most realtors completely fail at, and I did for literally almost my entire career, was the ability to identify problems. And it's like we talked, that was our entire team meeting today, whether it was showing a property, whether it was an open house. It's like your ability to ask really great questions, identify motivation, and identify a problem. But then most importantly, because you're auditioning, making sure that we explicitly explain to people why it is that we are the ones that have the solution for that problem and what we do to get you from where you're at to where you want to be. And it's like when you truly have the ability to tell a great story, which your marketing does the storytelling for you. When you can tell an amazing story and when people can relate, and we call it the herd effect. And it's like when people can relate and identify with a particular scenario and the solutions that they've created for it. And I've seen you tell this story through homes that ended up having to be just all the different things that you have to do, whether it be renovation, whether it be staging, whether it be why it was unsuccessful before, and then you take over and you guys successfully sold it. When we can tell people the solutions that we provide and how we solve their problem, you magnify yourself to where you're not having to chase after people, you're just attracting people.
At 1000%. Because they're either getting to know you through the marketing, or they're getting to know the problems that you solve and they have that problem, or they see themselves in your clients. And they're like, oh, we're just like the Hoy family. So if the Hoy family used Hometown Realty, we should probably use Hometown Realty, right? So they're seeing themselves, and this is where it's the visuals are so important, that your print match your social, that your print also, you've got video in conjunction with, and we'll talk about some of that layering. I just want to get through these really quickly. So this is an example of how we do our just sold cards. We actually do, now we've reduced it to 3. We were doing 5. So we do 3 just sold, and then we do a just listed and an escrow. Because we're ramping up and selling so many that I could decrease it from 5 to 3, which is now also helping us, because if you guys are not looking at your P&L, if you are not looking at your expenses, so our just sold, our just listed and escrows just sold are not in our marketing budget. Those are in our listing budgets. So we really do not look at these as part of our overall marketing plan. These are what we do as part of our listing. So I hope that that helps when you're talking about creating your budget. But really important, these circles, you want to show how you got somewhere. How did you sell the home? You're doing it through stats, but you're also doing it through bullet points, which really help those analyticals, those drivers, and those expressives to understand, oh, they delivered 20,000 online views and they got multiple offers. Oh, I see how they did it. So they've created this marketing funnel, and that's how they got that house sold. This was also something that, so we sold the first house in that neighborhood. Then this house came to us. I don't know why that's all off like that. So then the first house, this is a sequence in the same little 100 home community. We ended up selling 3 houses in that community within 6 months. Every one of them saying, oh, we got your marketing pieces. And when we would go, they would be sitting on the table. So when you start getting success, you want to build on that success. Oh, 2 in Belmont in 2 weeks, right? So we did the just sold for that home, and then we put and showing the layered amount of success that we were having in that neighborhood. So now, oh, boom, 1, 2, 3. So don't think that people are going to remember what you've done. You have to remind them of your proof of success. And so speaking of that, right now at this time of year, this is when, you really want to be looking at, are you doing that yearly piece, right? Are you putting out your yearly proof of success piece? Because that's super important to do. And also mapping. I don't know why this isn't moving. Oh.
I love that one that you're about to get to.
This one?
Yep.
Okay. So this is, if anybody wants this company, I'm happy to connect you with them. This is a campaign that we did to non-owner occupieds, offering them a $10 Starbucks card to have a phone consultation with us. And this was wildly successful for us. We ran this right before COVID, and then all hell broke loose during COVID, and we pulled it back. But we're getting ready to launch this again, but we're going to launch this differently. I'm waiting on the proof right now. We're going to launch this into our farm as a homeowner survey. And we're going to launch a homeowner survey asking questions around, it's going to turn into a $5 card, not a $10, because if 3,000 people redeem this card, so be careful about your budgets when you look at doing these kinds of things, because you want to fulfill what you say you're going to do. So this homeowner survey will be 5 questions for a $5 Starbucks card. And we are going to do, 5 simple questions, but we're looking for hand raisers. It's also a way for us, would you pay $5 to have a valid email address for every home in your farm? Absolutely. Would you pay $5 to have a valid phone number for every house in your farm? Absolutely. So these are going to be 1 per household, and they have to give us a valid email address to email the card to. And then we have to have a valid phone number in case there's a problem with the email. So this is another example of some of the other things that we've done. But really quickly, we were talking about this. Make sure that you are repurposing your content. So everything that you are mailing needs to also be in digital form, sent out through your email, newsletter, and posted to all of your social channels, because the wife may get the mail and throw your card in the trash and the husband never sees it. But the husband may get your email newsletter and now they have consumed your content. Or maybe they both see you on social and it is a repetitive, you are just dripping on them and continuing that deposit into that bank account that you are repeating your content to them.
Yeah.
And then of course, everybody does events. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. Just make sure that your brand is all consistent when you're doing things. Also telling, stories through your marketing. And Colton was just talking about open houses. Bigger is better. Colton, that's Alan Shaffrin's sign right there. Which open house sign? Which open house sign do you think people are going to notice? But you guys, these are free billboards that you get to put out. And what Colton was talking about is so very true. Most realtors put out 3 or 4 signs. I know it's a hassle. We're in our high heels, we're running across the highway or whatever in a skirt. We put our open house signs out in the morning, and we put a sign in front of the house leading people to the open house, that the open house will be from 1 to 4 that day. But the amount of cars that drive by these signs that just see the billboard and the name Hometown Realty, we never get pissed off people that they got to the house. They're like, oh, the open house isn't until 1 to 4. Okay, great. We'll come back.
Yep.
Buyer signs. This is the biggest mistake I see realtors make, not leveraging your buyer success. This is our buyer sign that goes in the yard for 2 weeks after a buyer closes. I can't tell you how many calls we get that people don't even read the sign and they think the house is for sale. Right? Or, they're texting or whatever, but again, you are just constantly getting that name out there. But remember, your buyer success is also a way for you to leverage and geofarm and mail. Because what does a seller really want at the end of the day? They don't want a realtor. They want a buyer for their house. And if you can show that you are representing other buyers in their neighborhood, they're likely to call you if you are speaking their language, that you just represented the buyer down the street at 123 Banana Street, and you have more buyers looking in that neighborhood. So don't forget your buyer success. And this is in here to remind me, don't forget to, talk about your buyer success in the marketplace, because that is really important.
On that, and this is going to be super specific for people that have it, but I know there's a ton of people that do have Ylopo, and you have Ylopo. When you use Ylopo, if you're not utilizing their seller tool and their marketing tool, you're making a huge mistake, because every lead that you generate for PPC or online lead, whatever it is, open houses, all of them go into the CRM, all of them go into Ylopo. And you can literally, when you're sitting there talking with Mary, type in the address of the home that you're discussing, and it will pull up a list of all the buyers that you have within your database that are and it's total BS. It's over the entire lifetime of Ylopo, the buyers that were working, but it displays it as, here's everybody that we currently have that's looking to buy a home like yours. And like that piece every single time has been the deciding, not every time, but a huge portion of the time, they say our success is the fact that we already had buyers lined up ready to go.
Mm-hmm. And if you have something like a Boomtown or a Follow-Up Boss, we actually send a screenshot with phone numbers, and names kind of whited out, clouded out, if you will. They're blurred, but to show like we have over 13,000 buyers looking to buy homes in our marketplace. And it's legitimately a screenshot of, and that's a very powerful visual when they can just see name after name after name, and that they're looking for 795,000, 400,000. That is a very powerful buyer piece that you can put out to your farm. So thank you for reminding me about that, Colton.
Yep, absolutely.
I would challenge all of you. This is something, I know we have 6 minutes left. This is something that our team is doing right now as delivering more value to our farm. So we have roughly 3,500 that we're farming right now in a very controlled, concentrated geographic farm on top of our military demographic farm. But we are doing, right now she's doing 20 CMAs a day. We're trying to get through our entire farm in 6 months. So I put the CMA up here because this is standard realtor language, right? Delivering a CMA. We actually call them a market absorption analysis. Because if you can create a separation of difference, there's a difference between Burger King and McDonald's. And you go to one because it's flame broiled. That is their separation of value to the marketplace. We deliver a market absorption analysis. The actual printout is just a cloud CMA, but we changed the cover letter to say market absorption analysis, because when we are in the listing presentation, the conversation goes something like, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm sure that you're meeting with other realtors, correct? I would highly recommend that you do, so that you can see the difference that we provide to the marketplace. However, I would challenge you that I'm sure other agents use something called a comparative market analysis or a CMA. Has anyone talked to you about that? Yeah, that is a very antiquated way of determining value in the marketplace. What I want to talk to you today is about a more market absorption analysis and where the market is going, not where the market has been. So we want to talk about the trends, the price acceleration that we are feeling, the price velocity that we are feeling, or the deceleration that we are feeling in the marketplace. Does that make sense? And they're like, yeah, that totally makes sense.
I
Right?
stole this from you from the Nashville, our dancing trip. I stole this from, we started implementing this, and it pissed me off how much that stupid little subtle tweak clicked with people. And it had such a huge impact. And now we use it every single time. It's a market absorption analysis. And like the one thing you guys will notice with Mary, and this is where everybody kind of falls off. You can copy her marketing, but then once you're in the door, you got to have a presentation like this. You have to have the polished separation that she's discussing. And we see people do it all the time. It's like, you can spend money until you bankrupt yourself, but you can create the conversations, but if you can't get the appointments, and then when you're in the appointments, you can't get the contract, it's like there's a process. It's the lead acquisition, it's the presentation, it's the value add that she provides. And that's what makes this entire process either successful for agents or not successful. Because I've heard you do this over and over and over, and you don't deviate a word. It's the exact same script. It's the exact same delivery with the exact same confidence, with the exact same data every single time. And every single time it makes me go, shit, I need to memorize that a little bit better.
It's just like your scripts that I'm still memorizing. I hope that, that has been super helpful to everyone. And let me see here. Do we have anything?
People are asking, what was the name of that company that did the Starbucks?
That is a company if you guys want to, I'll send it to you, Colton. I have an introduction to him. He's actually a client of mine. But I'll send you an introduction with all of his information in there so that, you can give it to everyone. And I can't remember his website off the top of my head, but he's a client of mine, great guy, loves realtors, loves real estate. He does do an exclusive per market, but definitely hit him up. I mean, you can make a card that looks like that, but his particular company, they're more expensive. This is not a low budget item, you can make one that looks like that. But that particular card is a very hard, glossy plastic card that is perforated, and it actually looks like that card will pop off of the piece. And you might have gotten one of these in your mail. He has a lot of national clients, Buca de Beppo, HelloFresh, that, these big national restaurant brands, send you a 2-for-1 or free appetizer or things like that. So you can copy that without, getting that fancy card, but that card gets people's attention because it's so different. The texture is so different. It actually looks like a gift card, and they can pop it off, but it's not redeemable. Yeah. They have to call you to get the actual one.
You get what you pay for. Somebody asked on here, and I think it's a really good one, unique value propositions. It's just so easy to call what you do. Kyle says it all the time, Kyle Whistle. If you want it to mean something, call it something. And it could be your 200-point listing launch, or it could be your 7-day listing launch guarantee. It can be the simple sale program because you partnered with HomeLight and they have the ability to do the simple sale. The cash close programs, you can guarantee a cash offer for any of these people, but call it something, have it a product, and actually cash close guarantee. Trade-in programs, you can have your home sold guarantee, the Dan Beer approach. And people, you hear everybody, I loved Dan on the call yesterday, because when they were talking about, well, what about your buyer guarantee, your home sold guaranteed? If you've driven through San Diego, you've seen this monstrosity of a yellow billboards that he has all over town on the buses. It's everywhere. And the thing that made him laugh, he's like, all you guys are sitting here spending a year and a half trying to figure out the fine print, trying to figure out what I'm going to call it and trying to find out what it's going to look like. He goes, guys, I launched it. And you want to know what your home sold guarantee was? The billboard. That was the entire program. He said, I've had 2 people in his entire career that have actually signed up for the your home sold guarantee. Mm-hmm. And what he talked about, he was like, all of us are sitting here you just got to make the damn phone ring. And when you talk to him, he does offer it. Your home sold guaranteed for sure. He chooses what listings he wants to take and at what price. And if it's one he doesn't want to guarantee, he won't offer it to him. And he does it at an 8% commission. And if he's not able to get you your home sold at the list price that he agrees to, then he'll pay the difference up to the amount of the commission. It's super simple, very little risk. But the entire point, he said, by the time you guys launch this, I've been running it for 15 years. Yeah. Just make the damn phone.
Yeah, because it's just about brand and brand recall that, when they have a need. And that's where this is the long game. And I see Jay on here, Jay, he can attest, farming is the long game. And there are a lot of short term, you can buy leads, you can do all of those things. But I'll tell you, when I had disruption in my business and my team imploded, don't think that I'm perfect by any means. When my team imploded and my mom was also diagnosed with cancer the same day, 4 of my team left in the middle of the night while I was in the hospital with my mom and downloaded our database. The following year, I didn't do one single marketing piece because I was providing private in-home hospice care. My team fell apart. My partner wanted out. It was a devastating year. And I share that with you because I want you to know that year, my single agent partner sold 65 houses in our farm.
Wow.
Without one single marketing piece. Why? Because we had deposited for years into those people. We had created the brand recall and the marketing that when they still had a need, they called us.
Yep.
And that is the power of building a geographic farm and building a brand and being that person that they think of or that company that they think of when they do have a need. I love this question over here. What do you send if you don't have listings in the neighborhood? You send CMAs.
Yep.
And I guarantee you, when you send something of value that's thicker, does anyone remember getting the AOL CDs in the mail? Colton doesn't. He was like 3, right? I see Jay shaking his head. Yes.
Sounds horrible.
Yeah, Michael. Yeah. Like, I still see those. Like, people are moving out and I go to the house and they're cleaning out drawers. There was a perception that CD had value.
Yep.
And when you send people a perceived value, they hold on to it. That's why a piece like the 50 top tips for selling, it's like, oh, I might need this information someday. That's what we call evergreen. And it's a perception of value and they're going to keep it. When you send them something personal like a CMA, and this doesn't have to be expensive. Tammy Pack and the Absolute Charm crew down in Fredericksburg took this idea and ran with it. And they actually had someone, she sent me the video. They posted a video on Instagram and they were like, look at this piece, this entire packet that we just got from the folks at Absolute Charm in Fredericksburg. And they added a little gift. I think it was some sort of little pouch, some sort of little case, like a pencil case kind of thing. Look at this cute packet that we just got from the Absolute Charm team in Fredericksburg. And I'll tell you, they went on video and said, I am not looking to sell my house right now, But when I do, I will be calling these people, and anyone, that I know. These people are top notch. Look at the quality of their marketing. Look at the effort that they went to. They sent me a personal valuation on my home. And they sent me like this cute little gift. Like, how cute is this?
Yep.
You can't pay for that kind of endorsement. Like, that was solid gold. So the CMA accomplishes a lot of things. It is a perception of value. It creates an evergreen piece that they're going to hold on to. And it's a low cost sweat equity thing, because you can get priority mail envelopes for free at the post office, and then you can door drop them and not mail them. Do you open something that comes in a priority mail envelope?
Yep.
Heck yeah. Right. So they're at least going to open it, and those envelopes are free. You can deliver them. I'm fortunate enough at this point, I have the check equity to hire someone that mailings are their sole job on our team, and doing these CMAs. So,
And
that's what I would be doing to answer that question. I love that question.
And another really easy, quick, very actionable piece for you to do, go find a house that just sold in your farm, and then go door knock the 10 doors to the left, the 10 doors to the right, and the 10 doors in front of it. Like, hey, my client. And you're like, well, it's not true. Okay, then don't go do it. But it just go say like, hey, I just had a client who submitted an offer on this property, and unfortunately our offer didn't get accepted. My client and buyer is completely heartbroken, and I promised them that I would reach out. They're adamant about living here in the neighborhood. I promised them I'd reach out to the neighbors and see if you've had any chance or put any thought into selling your home.
Just
stop. And you can do that on anybody's listing.
Yeah, absolutely. Where are you getting the turnover data? MLS. I'm just looking at the solds in the MLS to get that data. Yes, that is the correct book. Are you using Corfact? No, I do not use Corfact. We do our own printing, and we also use HomeBot. HomeBot is amazing for the price it is, and that's a great example of the difference in messaging. Yeah. Realtors ruined what's your home worth. Realtors ruin everything. But we see one realtor doing it, and but you have to think in terms of the consumer. There was a shift during COVID, if you guys didn't catch it, and consumers went from what's my home worth to how much equity do I have? What freedom does the equity in my home give me? And so you have to make sure that you are speaking to the messaging and having that compelling message that the consumer is looking for. Name of the company. We doing over that. What is a buyer sign? Just like a listing sign.
What you just talked about, it's like everybody wants to use Corfact because it's very efficient. It's very easy. It's click and play. It's plug and play. It's really easy. It'll pull the data for you. It blends in with everybody else. It's efficient, but it's not effective. It's like the method that she goes through, and you can see in each of these pieces, they're clearly very methodically curated. Those are effective. It's not efficient. You got to do a lot more work, but those, if you're going to start, I would do it with like you said it earlier, I would start with a much smaller farm with a much higher quality and a much more methodically placed value proposition, the branding that you utilize, the pieces that you use, the quality of those pieces. You'll get so much more traction with less, and you're able to go deep, not wide.
Yeah. Ned, I love this question. Are you referring to the heat map? No, I'm referring to when you do marketing pieces, and I apologize, there wasn't a picture in here. When now is the time of year to be doing your yearly proof of success piece. Looking at what all did you do last year? If you didn't have a lot of sales, did your team have a lot of sales? Did your brokerage office have a lot of sales? Who can you rely on to show proof of success for the year? If you didn't have a lot of sales, just make your damn bubbles bigger, right? But if you can show a map and little pins all over the map in a concentrated area, that is a quick, amazing visual that will not only get your analyticals, but also get your expressives and your visual people to show, wow, they sell a lot of houses, right? Or they sold a house right in my neighborhood. Because it goes back to this mental psychology of us as humans. I remember being a kid and driving cross country. My grandfather let me be in charge of the map and the atlas. And that was like a huge deal because we all want to know where we are in the world. When you walk in and see a globe, don't you naturally turn it to where you are in the world? We all have this innate thing that we want to know where we are in the world. And that is from Dan, not Dan Beer, don't get this confused. Dan, who is the chief marketing officer at 3 Day Blinds, who spends millions upon millions of dollars marketing and A/B testing. You know, I'm a big A/B tester. Sometimes you don't have the check equity in order to put out 2 pieces and see which one got a bigger response, see which call to action got a bigger response. So I listen to people like Dan from 3 Day Blinds. I was fortunate enough to be in a private mastermind through Tom Ferry with him. And 2 things I took away from that: maps. Anytime you can show printed maps, virtual maps, if you can do a map on social and boo, 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 drop all the pins in a video style or just a static style, huge. And the second thing, he A/B tested every single thing. I know we just came through the holidays, but put this on your radar for next year. Snowflakes, not Santa Clauses, not Christmas trees. Snowflakes got the most clicks online during all of his holiday marketing. So I thought that was super fascinating. Snowflakes. So that's the type of map I'm talking about. You know, it's really important to show that track record of success. So getting that yearly, once a year piece out, we do a big 4-panel piece that opens up into a huge map of our community and that geographic farm. And we drop all the pins of every house we sold. If we represented the seller and buyer, they're a different color. If it was the highest price in that neighborhood, it's a different color. And then we blow out, you know, highest price per square foot, highest sale in the neighborhood, quickest sale in the neighborhood, highlighting all of the record-setting activity that we had. So that proof of success piece will set the stage. I would encourage all of you that if you're thinking about starting a farm or you haven't farmed for the last couple of years, because let's face it, we really didn't need to, right? Going at a farm, which was on that slide that talked about frequency, starting Super Bowl weekend, really that 8-week span, I know in my cyclical market that those are the most critical 8 weeks of our year. And so we are gearing up to send something out every single week for 8 weeks, starting Super Bowl weekend. Your farm might be completely different, but you need to know pre-COVID, because COVID was a completely different animal. But if you know your cyclical market, then you can plan your year and your media campaign, because it's not just mailing, it's also calling, it's also events, it's also the social media post, it's all the things layered on top of each other into a massive media schedule. But if you know the cyclical nature of your market, that's how you control your cost. You know when to push and when to pull. You know when to put on the gas and when to put on the brake, right? And the consistency. So right now we're gearing up for that 8-week kind of just deposit. It's also a great way to introduce yourself to a farm, because there's more brand recall when you hit someone 8 times within a short time frame versus saying, I'm going to just start mailing and I'm going to start a farm by mailing once a month.
Yeah.
It's not enough brand recall immediately for them to quickly say, wow, she sells a lot of houses. Wow, she sells a lot of houses. We do the same house 3 times, 3 different cards with 3 different photos. It looks like we're selling 3 times as many houses. Nobody said you can just send a one just sold. So, you know, think outside of the box about how you can get that success and that traction off of the sales that you're starting and then build from there.
Awesome.
I think we got through all the questions, right?
Yep.
Oh my gosh,
Mary,
I appreciate you guys staying on here with me. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
thank you so much, Mary. Love you. You're the best as always. And that stuff, I've done this presentation before and I still wrote down a ton of notes that I forgot. So appreciate it. And everybody, we'll send you guys the slides. We will send you guys the recording. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. But thank you so much, Mary. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Go make it great.